Good morning, welcome to the Tudor Cottage Diaries. You can't see much because it's dawn. However, I'm going to be doing a full garden tour this morning, so I'm up bright and early, gonna have some breakfast. I am going to grab myself a cup of tea and then I'm going to take you on a full garden tour and hopefully capture all the projects that we've done this year and maybe touch on the ones we're going to be doing into 2025. However, I just need to let Mother Nature do her piece, get that sun up. Hopefully it's a good day today because we have got some terrible weather forecast for the rest of this weekend and into next week. Gonna head back inside now and get that breakfast and a cup of tea. So it was my birthday on the 18th and I was treated to some really fantastic presents, including these amazing birdhouses and this beautiful solar lit bee house, which are going to go on the rose pillars. I think you've seen them in a previous video, but I will show them today what I'm doing. I'm kind of creating a bird community in bright colours on my rose pillars. That is a Fortnum & Mason's little hamper in the background, which was full of really lovely treats, including raffia and string for the garden, which I'm really pleased with. And the beautiful flowers were from my mother and father-in-law, with these gorgeous flowers that I've got just in front of my lovely plate rack. These flowers smell stunning, and these were from my parents for my birthday, and they gave me some money because they know I want to buy an oak barrel water bat, and hopefully I'll be purchasing that this weekend. Some of my beautiful cards and the start of the autumn display of the pumpkins, and the birthday bunting is up in. I've got my autumn Emma Bridgewater mug. The washing machine's on in the background, and I have the most amazing breakfast planned, which is avocado, feta cheese, tomatoes and basil from the garden on toast. So I'm going to enjoy. I got this stunning, gorgeous hibiscus. This hibiscus will be going in the rose garden, and look at those colourways. And this was from a garden centre called the Garden Society that's in Fair Oak in Eastleigh. Absolutely my favourite garden centre in the world. So we're starting the tour looking at the dawn and looking over the rose garden. There are still a few roses in flower. I've got myself a cup of tea. Let's head in. Can you see the two the entrance to the rose garden? These are beautiful screens, and that's from my mother and father-in-law, Pops and Mum, and my husband. They bought those as a gift for my birthday on Wednesday, and I think they really set off the rose garden beautifully. The rose garden, it's very windy today, hopefully that's not being picked up. So the last of the buddleia, that's slowly gone over. I will chop that down. I like to keep that contained. In the background, climbing up the barn and stable number 2, we've got the Rambling Rector rose that I just need to tie in so it doesn't damage itself in these winds. The Verbinia Valencia has been stunning, if a little leggy this year. I kind of wish I chopped it down a bit earlier and made it a bit more compact. But looking at the viburnum, we have got lots of flower heads on that. This year plant is a 2-year viburnum. Ah, right, can you see the daddy long legs? We have been inundated in those. It's been a nightmare. Every evening when you turn the lights on, you get inundated by hundreds. It's the stuff of nightmares. Hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, of daddy long legs. Right, the rose garden has been successful again this year. Not, I would say, on the level of last year. Some of the roses have struggled with the light levels and some have been fine. Wow, can you see the top of the grasses in the sun? Isn't that just beautiful? With the rose, I'm gonna have to do a sniff. And the plan this year is to split some of these gorgeous ferns down. That will be done in spring, and spread them amongst the garden. Now, 3 of these beds have been a major success, and then the one at the front is too far in the shade, so the roses have struggled in there. And so I'm going to change up what's in there, and that's where I'm putting a lot of the hydrangeas, and that's where the Annabelle went. I'm going to continue collecting hydrangeas to go into that border. I'm going to keep the roses that are doing well. My leek snapped. I kind of like it hanging like that. This grass is going to be taken out and split down and used to flank the driveway as you come into the property. And at the back here we've got some more roses doing incredibly well into this garden. I don't know if I can show you, but on the whole, feeling really positive about the autumn colour in this garden. I did show you this beautiful delphinium in the last video, and then this bed is going to have loads of mulch put into it, loads of leaf mould. Have a dig out, get that ground alder out of it, and get it so that it's looking full and abundant and healthy, because at the moment it isn't. As we look at the pond, the 3 new areas are looking really bountiful in this early autumn. The roses in flower, I'll show you that, but all the plants seem to establish quite well. The Malvern Hills is meant to be a repeat flower. I'm wondering if it's too far in deep shade, because it hasn't put on a lot of growth, so that might have a relocation. The compost heaps are full. The green man has had his offerings put in there, so he's got his acorns in there. But I do a very slow roundabout so you can get your bearings around the cottage grounds. There's quite a lot of outbuildings here. And then this top lawn flanks the back of the cottage. And you can see the cottage is down lower than the lawns, and this was done as a protection from flood water. And I think you've seen in some of my previous videos how much rain we get here. Right, we call this the pet cemetery. This is where the previous owner's cats have been buried, and where we buried our 2 cats, Wallace and Jessie. I'm doing a bit of ground alder removal there. I've gone from just under the camellia. I've lifted the skirt of the camellia a little bit, and I'm going to take the top out. I'm going to be brave this weekend. Then this border is looking quite colourful, but there is still a lot of ground alder in it. And then working down towards the arch, there's loads of ground alder in there, and that just all needs to be dug out. But I'm going to leave a lot of the seed heads this year. I'm going to be brave, leave a lot of the seed heads on the plants this year for the birds, because we have amazing array of birds here. I'm very blessed. This clematis does look dead here on this little obelisk, but when you do the scratch test, it is alive, so I believe I might have scorched it with a hose pipe. There is my little witch hazel, the one that I put in about 2 videos back, right next to the path, so we can get that amazing smell in the spring, and it is loaded. And then the new arch, not painted yet, haven't made a decision, but it has its rose on it, which is a David Austin rose, but I forget which one at this point. And that's a third of the way covering the arch. Underneath it, look at this beautiful star aster. That's a real lovely pop of colour in this border next to the Japanese anemone, which if I take back, we might get a second flush from that. And then you've got the sedums mirroring the fuchsia in the background there, and then down to the hydrangea border, which leads to the back door. This hydrangea border has been planted for about 3 years now, and it will be fully hydrangeas and roses probably by 2 years time. And then if I double back, looking across the what used to be the sundial border, We took the sundial out and changed it with a prunus, so there's a cherry tree in there just to add a bit of height to the lawn, and then the herbaceous perennial border which fronts the greenhouse. We've still got colour in there, mostly coming from the asters, and then we've got the gorgeous colour. And again, the asters are mirroring the colour of that beautiful dahlia, and there's like a soft pink vibe going on through this end of the border, which I'm really liking. The greenhouse. Home to the melons. I had one in the week, absolutely gorgeous as usual. I save the seeds every year. In the cold frame, I've got the overwintering again. Acer palmatums, but look at the beautiful Victorian stand with the coral geraniums on. Really pleased with those. I have already purchased some frost protection for this fig tree. Isn't it lovely? No fruit on it this year because it did come to me with no leaves on it at all. It's had to have quite a large amount of feed. Looking again back towards the wishing well and the hydrangea border, the hedge has been reduced in height to let some light levels in, and then this way it's mainly the corals and the reds that are taking your eye towards that hydrangea border. And above us, hundreds and thousands of acorns to come down. Right, what have we got coming through the border that is outside the garage? Well, we've got the hydrangeas paniculatas, I think these are polar bears, and then we've got the most gorgeous clumps of cyclamen that you would have seen me put in last year as a transplant from my mother's garden. And this border is still looking zingy and fresh, and it's lovely to see the hydrangeas coming through here. Before we head down the drive, we've got this little border here, and you can probably see the chicks looking at perennial borders worked really well. So in here was just a privet hedge, and I dug that out. You can just see the remainders of it because I didn't take the roots out, but I've been trimming it and religiously trimming it every few weeks, just to allow the perennials and the little rose bush to shine through. And then if we look at this water butt, this is one that I painted, but this is where one of those oak barrels is going to reside, and I think that'd look more country than the plastic painted green one that I've got, but this will be relocated. Coming through the gate, we've got my gorgeous fern collection, and I'm adding to this, and these were purchased as huge ferns back about 2 years ago, and so they are ready to be split down. And what I can do with those is continue them down this part of the border. So underneath Archie's bedroom window, just show you an absolutely gorgeous elevation. We have got the sedums, more ferns, the Weigelia, which is in flower again, which is a plant that just keeps giving. We've got some roses. I just need to deadhead that rose. There is some hollyhocks through here, more of the dreaded lemon balm, lots of gladiolus, and lots of bulbs planted in here, and there is a huge lupin that is here in the spring, but yeah, that's been really successful this year. The pittosporum in obsidian, the very dark colour, it's absolutely really darkened up for autumn, and I've had a love-hate relationship with this plant, but I'm now actually kind of loving it. So it's got a stay of execution, and this border is what I will be working on in the spring. It's had a good weed out, but yeah, it's just lackluster at the moment. Christmas trees have been potted, ready for that season, which is racing towards us, but the wall of the house is still looking reasonably pretty. I've been going through and I've been taking out any of the really dead plants and the leggy plants, and this is where the rose was that is now up the Gothic arch. The hanging baskets I've had since spring, and it just goes to show that if you feed your plants and keep them watered, how well they last. This azalea has been here about 6 months now. It is loving the location, and it's getting watered every few days with rainwater from the water barrel. Ooh. I'm not sure if I've shown you this before, but this is our English Heritage plaque, which is at the front door. It is a listed cottage, and quite rightly so. It needs protecting. It's been here since 1553. It's a 16th century cottage, and there's this second Christmas tree that's had a few of its dead branches taken off. I'm not expecting these to live much longer. They are ones that I purchased for £1 from B&Q on Christmas Eve last year, and I'm surprised they're still going, but hey, we're going to use them this year. Right, going round to the Shady garden, which is beside the extension. So the Shady border. For 4 years this has been an absolute nightmare. So if you recall, the hedge line, I'll try and draw you a line, there we are, came really close to the edge of this border, and the hedge itself had never been maintained, and it was pretty much made up of dead, diseased branches, brambles, stinging nettles. So my son, in a previous video, dug the whole thing out, and this is where we have made the Shady garden a bit brighter by using variegated plants. I know some people don't like variegated plants. I actually love them, and when the moon is on its full moon phase, this garden just lights up because of where the moon sits in the sky at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely beautiful. We have got a variegated buddleia here. But yeah, we've got the variegated fatsias, the variegated pyrrhus coming through here, and then we've got the greens of the ferns and the verbena. There's some beautiful white flowers there coming through, and then the hedging plants at the back are snowberries. But it feels lifted and it feels brighter. In the background, as in with most of my videos, you can hear cocky wotsits growing away. So we now have 3 cockerels here. So patio set, and that's against the oil tank, and then we have got our border that separates us from the shepherd's hut. This barbecue, I don't think we touched on this, but this is quite an expensive brand of barbecue, but we got it from our local so we got this from our local antique centre second-hand market, and we paid £50 for it, and it's been amazing. And we just need to order the wooden chopping board that's missing from it. But yeah, if you keep your eyes open for a bargain. So looking towards the corner where the drainage ditch is, you can see that we've got some berries coming. We've got the buddleia here, we've got a sick looking mock orange blossom, we have got the corner where we've got some lupins just about to flower, the olive tree in the urn, and this is the back of the shepherd's hut, comes down here. We were going to put the toilet and shower in this corner, but that's probably 2 years off of being done. But the border's had a bit of a weed through, but there's lots of brambles in there. Oh yeah, we've got a lupin that's going to put on a last show by the look of it. Right, the lawn is looking particularly good in the camera. And this is where all those leather jacks are, those horrible bugs that produce the daddy long legs. The chickens want to come out. They've been free ranging every day. They're going through the molt at the moment, so not looking at their best. Right, the shady area that never ever works is going to be, I'm just going to apply a wood chip mulch to this, and I'm just going to let it be geraniums and cyclamen. That's all I'm going to have in here. And I'm going to put round it, build a hazel fence, a low hazel border, in the hope that the chickens won't get in there and eat all the cyclamen flowers, which is what they've been doing. We had loads more cyclamen flowers last year, but the girls have got a partial, they've got the taste for them. come round to the compost bins. Right, I haven't prepped this area for you, so let's see how messy it is. Yes, it's yeah, it needs a good tidy up. It is a little bit messy. And then we are at the end of the chicken run. So this area, the chicken run, doesn't have a roof, and that's just if they want to go out in the rain, they can. But if they want to take shelter, then they can go under the roof section, and they tend to spend most of the time under the roof section anyway. But yeah, that's a chicken run, full of birds at the moment. Right, looking at the gigantic rhododendron, that was a stunner this year. Absolutely loved it. And then the back of the shepherd's hut where the stained glass window is, I had to take this Weigelia down because it's now blocking the stained glass window in the shepherd's hut, and it's getting itself a little bit out of control. But gosh, look at those beautiful cyclamen from this vantage point. Really pleased with those. Right, coming under the absolutely massive tree in the front garden. The chickens have done masses of damage. They've had a good route around. The epimedium and the ferns are doing really well in here, and it won't take much to tidy it up with a bit of a rake. Right, they're all fighting for my attention. Their little thatch cottage is weathered well and keeping them nice and dry. So looking into this border, we've still got the salvias giving us late summer colour. The roses are still in bloom, the Verbinia balencias and the sedums. And then these pillars are where those birthday present bee houses and little bird houses are going to go. We've got the most amazing dahlias here that are doing really well, despite the fact that I've had to oik them over to put a pathway in because the dog kept running through and knocking them down. And then we've got some autumn colour starting to come on the prunus tree, the weeping prunus tree and the alalankia. Looking at the very empty bird table, which I will fill up in just a second, and there's some more birthday presents on there. These were the early ones, and it's the little teacup and saucer and the bench, and then the stars hold candles, and they look beautiful in the evening. There's a rose here that I just need to tie into its pillar, and then we've got the crocosmia looking untidy now through this border with the beautiful sedums. Lots more of the lemon balm that I'm trying to eradicate. And looking back past the teacup, we've got the mallow. This fell over in a storm last year, but is actually working there in its fallen down state. I'm absolutely loving it. So I'll take off some of those limbs just to reduce the height. But yeah, beautiful. And actually the teacup and that together look very pretty. Looking back towards the cottage along the rose pillars, the roses are starting to climb up the rose pillars, and my vision is starting to come into play. We can now see the sculpture in the garden, which was someone had a massive bonfire in the forest. You're not allowed them in the national park, and that was one of the branches that was left, and I love it. And going through this border, we got the magnolia trees, the cornus, more roses, and the achillea. Going towards what I call the shrimp plant, I never remember its full name, which is looking autumnal and beautiful. Towards the prunus trees, these prunus trees were the first things we purchased for this garden, and none of that border that we've just walked past was here. Right, the roundabout has been another success. So this was all dug out. So this roundabout was dug out about 2 years ago, and last year I put a lot of effort into the plants that were coming into here just to give us all round colour, give it a perennial feel, cottage garden feel, and I think it's worked really well. I particularly love the grass that leads to the nook of the tree, and I do read my book here on a hot day on a beanbag. Again, a star here is the aster. At the front we've got some beautiful late summer, early autumn lupins with that beautiful blue geranium. And then looking towards the long border, you can see now that the Verbascum's doing really well, but everything else is starting to die off, and this is where I want to add all the colour next year. So early spring, this is where I'm going to be concentrating, and I will be collecting plants for this area, dividing plants from the back garden, just to give a more welcoming sight as you come down the drive. The cosmos has at last taken off, and if you think about it, at the beginning of the year I think I had 100 cosmos plants, and you will notice there are hardly any in the garden. They didn't do well at all, but for some reason the back of the roundabout, they've taken off, and we've got some beautiful specimens. Right, I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the garden in early autumn. There's still lots of colour, there's still lots that I can do to this garden. Thank you for joining me. Please click like and subscribe and leave a comment below. I love replying back to you guys. I love hearing from you guys. So have a beautiful rest of the week. I'm going to be uploading every Tuesday going forward. So see you next Tuesday.